Most people move through life believing that they're trying to figure out who they are, as if identity is something waiting for them somewhere out there in the world. Something that they'll eventually discover if they just keep searching long enough, trying enough things, meeting enough people, or putting themselves in enough different environments. And while I understand why that idea feels true, because that's the story we've been given for as long as I can remember, that you grow up, you explore, you experiment, and eventually you arrive at some final version of yourself that feels solid and complete. But I want you to pause for a second and actually look at your real life. Not the version that you present to people, not the one that sounds good when you explain it, but the one that you wake up into every single day. What does your morning actually look like? What are the first thoughts that enter your mind? What are the small decisions you make before the day even begins? Because whether you realize this yet or not, you are already creating yourself. Not later when things finally click, not when you feel ready, but right now, in real time, through the way that you think, through the habits that you repeat, and the choices that you make when no one else is watching. And the moment that you truly see that, not just hear it, not just agree with it, but actually see it, playing it out in your own life, everything starts to shift. Because the question stops being, who am I supposed to become someday? And instead becomes something much more immediate and much more real, which is, what am I already becoming right now through the way that I'm living? And that realization is powerful because the process isn't waiting for your permission. It's happening whether you're conscious of it or not. When you really start to look at people, and even more importantly, when you start to look at yourself, you begin to notice that who we are isn't something fixed or static. It's something that's being shaped continuously through patterns that often go unquestioned. For example, you set an intention at night that you're gonna start fresh the next morning. You say that you'll get up earlier, move differently, finally follow through on something that really matters to you. But then the alarm goes off and you hesitate. You reach for your phone, give yourself a few extra minutes, that turns into 20. And before you know it, the day has already started reacting to you instead of you moving with intention through it. And in isolation, that moment doesn't feel like a big deal. It feels normal. It feels like life. But when that same pattern repeats itself over and over again, it stops being just a moment and starts becoming a part of your identity. You're no longer someone who occasionally delays. You begin to see yourself as someone who struggles with discipline, someone who isn't a morning person, someone who is always trying to catch up. And that identity wasn't created through one big decision. It was built through small patterns repeated enough times that they started to feel true. The same thing happens internally with the way that you respond to challenges. Something doesn't go your way, and your first thought might be that you're behind, or that things didn't work out for you, or that you're not where you're supposed to be. And one thought like that isn't the issue, but when that becomes the automatic response every single time that something gets difficult, you're no longer having just a thought. You're building a lens through which you experience your life. Over time, that lens shapes what you notice, how you interpret things, and what you believe is possible for yourself, until eventually it feels like reality, even though it was constructed through repetition. For me, this isn't something I had to arrive at later in life, after things fell apart, or after I needed to rebuild from something. I've always experienced life a little bit differently, even from a young age, where I wasn't the loudest voice in the room, or the one trying to be seen, but instead I was observing. I was paying attention, noticing how people moved, how they reacted, how they made decisions. And there was always this quiet awareness in me that something about the way most people were living didn't fully align with what I felt was possible. I didn't have the language for it back then. I wasn't trying to define it or explain it. But I was already connected to the idea that who we are isn't something that we're passively becoming. It's something we are actively shaping. And because of that awareness, even without fully understanding it, I made a decision early on that I was going to move to my own rhythm, to stay connected to that internal sense of alignment instead of just adopting patterns that didn't feel true to me. What most people are still operating from is the idea that identity is something you find, like it's hidden somewhere and your job is to uncover it. But identity doesn't actually work in that way. Identity is something that you build. It's constructed through the way that you think, through the way that you act, and the way that you choose to respond to your life on a daily basis. Every action reinforces something. Every habit strengthens something. Every decision contributes to the structure of who you're becoming. So when you start looking at your life through that lens, everything changes. Because now it's not just about what you're doing. It's about what that behavior is building. The way that you spend your time is building something. The way that you talk to yourself is building something. The way that you avoid certain things or lean into others is building something. And even when you feel like you're staying the same, you're building something. Because repetition always reinforces identity. This is where awareness becomes the first real shift. Awareness is simply the ability to see what's already happening without immediately trying to change it or judge it. It's recognizing your patterns clearly, noticing how you respond when things get uncomfortable, seeing where you hesitate, where you distract yourself, where you hold back, and understanding that these patterns are not random. They are part of the construction process, and that has been shaping who you are. Once you have that awareness, you naturally move into alignment, where you begin asking deeper questions, not just what should I do, but what do I actually want to build with my own life? And this is where things become more intentional, because now you're no longer operating purely from habit or external influence. You're choosing direction. You're deciding what feels true to you. And that requires honesty, because you really can't hide behind autopilot anymore. From there comes expression, where your life starts to reflect the internal shift that you made. You begin making different decisions. You take different actions. You're showing up in a way that feels aligned with who you've become aware of. And it's not forced. It's not performative. And it's a natural extension of clarity. You're no longer trying to become someone else. You're expressing who you consciously decided to build. If you take a moment and really look at your life right now, you'll probably see that some parts of who you are were built intentionally. And those are usually the parts that you feel the most connected to, the parts that you're proud of, the parts that really feel aligned. But there are also those parts that were built automatically through environment, through repetition, through patterns that you never really questioned. And none of that makes you wrong. It just means that you were building without realizing you were the one doing the building. The empowering part is once you see the process clearly, you're no longer stuck inside of it. You can step into it consciously. You can begin making decisions that align with what you actually want to create. Not perfectly, not all at once, but deliberately. One choice at a time, one pattern at a time, one shift at a time. Because the truth is, every single day, you are shaping the person you're becoming, whether you're aware of it or not. In the small moments, in the quiet decisions, in the way that you think when things don't go your way, you are reinforcing something. You are building something. And the moment you truly recognize that, you stop waiting. You stop drifting. You stop looking for something outside of yourself to define who you are. And you start participating in that process intentionally. That's what this is really about. Not surface level change, not temporary motivation, but understanding that your life is something that you're actively constructing. And once you understand that, not just intellectually, but through your own experience, you stop asking who you're supposed to become, and you start deciding moment by moment who you're building.